starting off, same thing we did last week. I'm going to give my power rankings. Corby's going to give his. Then we're going to come together and compare them. So we're just going to do a quick rundown. Try not to spend more than like 15, 20 seconds on each team. We're going to knock these out real quick. And I'm going to start off with my list. At number 10, I have the Golden State Warriors. Last week I had them at 3, and obviously a bad week for them, losing 2 games, one to the Giannis-less Bucks and the other to the Indiana Pacers in kind of a choke fashion, I would say. I still believe that this team is good. I believe those are 2 bad losses that they'll recover from, but it was a bad week for them, and honestly, I considered not even having them in the top 10. Number 9, Detroit Pistons. I have them in the same spot I had last week, even though they had a pretty good week. They didn't beat very strong competition, but Cade looked amazing. I think they are rounding into form, and I think they're going to beat some good teams coming up here on their schedule. But this past week, they didn't play anybody who really jumped out at me, so I didn't feel compelled to move them higher. Number 8, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, last week, I had them 2. They've dropped 6 spots. A couple of losses in the past week. One by 20 points to the Celtics when they were pretty much fully healthy, minus Darius Garland. Another loss when it was just Mobley, and Mobley played well, so I don't hold too much to that, but they haven't looked great. I think they'll look better once Garland comes back, but just given their performance this year, they're 4-3, and I don't feel compelled to rank them higher. Number 7, I have the Chicago Bulls. They are up 3 spots from where I had them last week, which was number 10. The Chicago Bulls have looked really good to start the year. They're 5-1. Obviously, they had that loss against the Knicks where the Knicks had controlled the game most of the way, but that's still almost to be expected when you're playing a team like the Knicks on a back-to-back. So I think the Chicago Bulls still look really good. I think they're playing really well together as a team. I don't know if this is a fluke or not. We'll see what happens when Kobe White comes back. But overall, I really like the way they look, and Montas looks really good. Number 6, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. That's 2 spots up from where I had them last week at 8. More of the same from them. They lost their first game, but it was by 1 point to the Celtics. They could very easily be undefeated still, and they've looked really good. VJ Edgecombe still looks like a great contributor. Tyrese Maxey is still playing high-level basketball. And honestly, I think the Sixers are for real this year. Number 5, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo has looked like the best player on the planet these first 2 weeks of the season, and yes, that does include Victor Wembanyama. Game winner last night in Indiana, fadeaway jumper, and Ryan Rollins has been a revelation for them. I think aside from Giannis, the team itself looks better than we expected it to, and so far, Milwaukee is actually showing a lot of fight this year. Number 4, I have the San Antonio Spurs, 1 spot up from where I had them last week. They lost their first game this past week. Wemby had an off night. I don't think this is something that's going to repeat itself. I think the fact that Wemby had to have a night that poor in order for them to lose speaks volumes. Now, Dylan Harper's injury might hurt them, but you have De'Aaron Fox coming back, which you would hope would be a positive over Dylan Harper, as good as Dylan Harper has been even. So I think the Spurs are really good, and obviously Victor Wembanyama is sensational. Number 3, this is a team I didn't even have in my top 10 last week, the Los Angeles Lakers. Wow. I mean, you want to talk about a team that is winning anyhow, anyway. It doesn't matter who's on the court. It doesn't matter if Luka's hurt. It doesn't matter if Reeves hurt. This team is winning. And last night, 29 points from DeAndre Ayton, 25 from Nick Smith Jr. Luka Doncic, 165 points through his first 4 games, which is the most since Wilt Chamberlain in 1962-63. This team looks incredible, and they haven't even gotten LeBron James back yet. So the Lakers are for real, and they've earned my respect. Number 2, I have the Houston Rockets. This may be a surprise to some people. I definitely had them higher than people would have had them last week. I had them 6, so I've moved them up to 2, and that is because the Houston Rockets have won 3 straight games. They've looked good in all those games. Amen Thompson is finding his role within this offense. They have the best offensive rating in the league. They have the second best net rating in the league, only second to the number 1 team, and I think the Houston Rockets are rounding into the form that I thought they would as championship contenders. But number 1, and it's a big gap between 2 and 1, let's be honest, the Oklahoma City Thunder, 7-0. Chet's been hurt. J-Dub's been hurt. It doesn't matter. They have the best net rating in the league. They have the best defense in the league. Shea is an incredible player. He's making another MVP case for himself very early in this season, and the Thunder look absolutely unstoppable.
All right, that was a power ranking for sure. I'm not calling it bad or good, but let's just say mine is so much more different. You might get mad at me for mine, and I could understand the casual. But listen, one thing that I do prioritize when it comes to these power rankings is beating good teams and losing to good teams. If you beat these tanking teams and these awful teams, I don't care yet. Now, obviously, throughout the season, you have to beat bad teams eventually to have a good record to make it into the playoffs. But for right now, when I talk about who looks the most impressive, I'm only looking at teams who have played impressive teams. So for that reason, I'm not even going to say who I don't have. You'll just naturally see the teams I don't
I'll
have.
figure it out.
At number 10, I have the Miami Heat. They are 4-3 right now. They have had a tough schedule. They have played more away games than home games. And overall, even without Tyler Hero, they have collectively come together and won some games that they probably shouldn't have going into it. I mean, they absolutely crushed a team like the Memphis Grizzlies, who I don't think are that good, but those are, like, if that is one of your weaker teams you've had to play is the Grizzlies, then that's really good. Number 9, I have the Golden State Warriors. I was going to have them a lot higher once they started, 4-1? And then they lost to 2 teams that they should have beat. They should have beat the Milwaukee Bucks without Giannis, and they should have beat the Indiana Pacers just in general. I mean, they're out so many players that you got to win those 2 games. And to have such easy layups there and miss them is just not ideal. But the Warriors have been overall good. Curry's been kind of doing his thing. Jimmy Butler, Kuminga's been amazing. At 8, I do have the Portland Trailblazers. This is a team that has had a pretty tough schedule. Now, you can say that they have played a bunch of teams who were on a back-to-back, but they have themselves had a couple back-to-backs, I think, either 1 or 2. And overall, again, kind of what I said last week, but the whole team effort, Drew Holiday, Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant has been really good off the bench in these 6 games or 7 games, whatever. At number 7, so by the way, yeah, the Blazers went up, Warriors went down 3. At number 7, I did not have this team on my list last year. It was the Milwaukee Bucks. They won a game. They beat the Warriors without Giannis. Like, that is absolutely incredible. And then overall, they're 5-2. They've won games that they've had to win. They played a couple weaker teams. That's why I have them this low. I think you had them at 5. But overall, it's still really impressive. I mean, they weren't even on the list. They are on a trajectory to be even higher, which is incredibly disappointing for me as a Hawks fan. But number 6, I do have the Denver Nuggets. So they did go down in the power rankings, and they are 4-2. And maybe I should give them the benefit of the doubt because they are such a good team. They were such a good team last year. But again, they're one of those teams who haven't beat anyone impressive yet. They've lost. Their 2 losses are to good teams in the Portland Trailblazers and the Golden State Warriors. But I mean, what? They beat the Wolves without Anthony Edwards. They might have played the Pacers. What is their schedule? I don't have their schedule up. Whatever. But overall, their wins haven't been impressive. I want to see them be an impressive team before I have them any higher, as they probably should be. At number 5, I'm surprised that you were pretty low on this team. And I didn't even have this team in my list last week. The Detroit Pistons, I have number 5. I mean, every single game they've played, they have played a tough team. And I'm sorry, like right now, if you're a team like that, I'll just go ahead and say I didn't even have the 76ers, who are 5-1, in my top 10 in the power rankings because they played teams like the Hornets, like the Wizards, and like that. If you can win these games, then the teams like the Hornets and Wizards should be the given games. Asar Thompson has been absolutely amazing defensively and even offensively. He's stepped up a little bit. Cade Cunningham, even when he has bad statistical games, he still has such an impact on getting people wide open. Beef Stew has had games by himself. I mean, last game was amazing when he played. Who did Detroit play last night?
Grizzlies.
The Grizzlies. I think the very first game, Beef Stew had an amazing game coming off the bench. Durant has been doing his thing. Super efficient. Overall, even without Jane Ivey, the Pistons have been killing it. At number 4, I have the New York Knicks. Now, yes, they are 4-3, but another one of those teams. They've only been playing tough teams. And overall, that starting 5 is looking like the best starting 5 in the league, being Jalen Brunson. Mikal Bridges himself has been amazing. It's like he's giving you Brooklyn productivity, but it's actually way more efficient and it's actually winning basketball. Because, in Brooklyn, he was probably like a 21, 22 point per game scorer, and he's doing that on the Knicks. But he doesn't even really need to when you already have a guy like Brunson and Cat. At number 3, I have the Los Angeles Lakers. And I hate to admit it, I didn't even have them in the top 10 last week. But yeah, they're number 3, even without Reeves in that game last night, without Luka. You talk about missing Ayton, which could be a good thing. They've been missing, obviously, LeBron the whole season and still find a way to get a guy off the bench like Nick Smith Jr. to drop 20 points. Bronny played some winning basketball last night. And then in spurts when Roy Hachimura has to do it, he's been doing it. And overall, I'm not going to say their schedule has been the most impressive, but it has been impressive that they've been doing it without some of their best players on the team. At number 2, I have the Chicago Bulls, and maybe it's a bit of an overreaction, but another team where they haven't been playing like the best teams in the league, but every single game, I mean, you talk about preseason, who were the good teams in the East? We had the Knicks, we had the Hawks, we had the Cavs, we have the Magic. And while the Magic and the Hawks haven't looked good this season, beating those teams just kind of shows you that they'll probably, hopefully, beat the worst teams when they have to play them eventually. Josh Giddey's been amazing. Matas Buzelis had that one game where he fouled out in game 2, but every other game he's been killing it. Pretty much the reason that they're winning. Ayo Dosunmu is a guy off the bench who you just don't think of as like, oh, this really good guard. But he's had games with 20 points off the bench, and he's always going to bring that defensive intensity. And then Vucevic is just kind of doing his thing. Kobe White's going to come back soon. Trey Jones has been amazing. Overall, 5-1. You can't argue with them being the number 2 because they haven't had any gimmies. And then number 1, the Oklahoma City Thunder, 7-0. Now, this is actually a team that also doesn't have too many impressive wins. Obviously, Houston game 1 was impressive. But besides that, maybe you could even say, like the Hawks, not really. But they're undefeated. You have to give them the benefit of the doubt. They won the championship last year. They've been doing it without J-Dub, without Chet. Chet's hopefully coming back tonight, but he's been missing the last 3 or 4 games. They haven't had a single game with J-Dub. They've missed a couple games with Kaysen, a couple games with Caruso, and they just always find guys who could come in and do their thing. Unfortunately, Ousmane Dieng got hurt, so if they get hurt even more, the lineup might run a little short, but they have guys like AJ Mitchell, Brendan Carlson, who shouldn't even really be only on the Thunder would that guy be a guy who could be a legit role player. Like the fact that they can find these guys is truly insane, but that's my top 10. So notably, who did I not have? I did not have the 76ers. I did not have the Cavs. I did not have the Rockets, and I did not have the Spurs in my top 10. But that is my top 10. I just personally, I like impressive wins, and as good as the Spurs have been, they played a bunch of teams that no one thought would be good before the season. And I think it's just going to die out.
But you had the Spurs at what, 5?
5 last week.
5 last week. What have they done to deserve to be dropped more than 5 spots?
They lost to the Suns, who the Suns, besides that Spurs win, have only beat the Utah Jazz and the Sacramento Kings. And I don't value either of those kind of wins. They barely beat the Jazz, I'm pretty sure. And then the Kings have also been a team that have been absolutely awful.
They beat the Jazz by 22.
Oh, did they? Oh,
and this is a Suns team who, if you look at their past few games, and I'm not going to sit here and because we have different opinions on our power rankings, but they beat the Kings in their first game of the season. Then they lost big to the Clippers and the Nuggets, right? 2 teams that you believe are going to be pretty good this year.
Yeah.
Then they lost by 4 to the Jazz in overtime. They lost by 1 to the Grizzlies. Then they beat the Jazz by 22 and they beat the Spurs by 12. So this is a Suns team that is surging, and they're going to play the Warriors tonight, which is a game that I personally am concerned about given how the Warriors have been playing recently. It's the 8th game of the season, so I'm not shivering in my boots, but it is concerning because I feel like the Suns are surging. They found something with Mark Williams entering the starting lineup now, where they have looked so much better since he entered the starting lineup, right? Devin Booker is obviously Devin Booker, and they have Dylan Brooks coming back at some point, who has been a good contributor this year when he's played, and has also been a very good contributor historically. The Suns are not a bad team this year.
They lost to a Suns team without Dylan Brooks, though. I mean, we got to keep this into consideration.
So they did, but I still want to just point out how the Suns have performed in their last few games. Yes, we can say the Jazz, are the Jazz, but the Jazz also were playing really good to start the year. So I mean, I get the teams are what they are, but you have to give some credence to how the teams have performed through the first few games, as you are in your power rankings, which is why the Bulls are number 2. And I'm not going to sit here and totally argue that. I just feel like you are overvaluing the last week a little bit too much in terms of dropping some of these teams. I think the fact that Houston is not a top 10 team, now I have them too. I didn't expect you to have them too, but the fact that they are not a top 10 team is a little bit crazy to me. I get you're saying they haven't beat anybody, but also their losses come against the Pistons, the team that you have 5, and the Rockets, the team that you have number 1.
Oh, right. And I'm not necessarily I think we kind of talked about this last week, but power rankings are a thing that you can win a game and still go back. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Winning a game isn't always a positive thing. I'm sorry, but I truly don't care if you beat these teams like the Mavericks and the I forget what other bad teams they played, but teams on the lines of a Pacers or a Wizards or like any of those tanks.
So that was actually a point I wanted to make. So you say the Rockets beat the Mavericks, and that's not a quality win. But in the same breath, you gave the Pistons a lot of credit for playing tough teams in the last week, one of which was the Mavericks. So now, of these teams, the Magic, Mavericks, Grizzlies, I don't think any of these teams have looked like playoff teams to start the year.
I would still give the benefit of the doubt to the Magic. personally.
I can
think they're still a good team.
So I can give that to them. And Cade obviously had a very good game against them. I think he had like 6 stocks or something like that in that game to go along with 30, 10, and 6. Damn good game. And he's been playing really good as of late.
But I mean, you look at those. You look at the Rockets 2 losses and the Pistons 2 losses, and they're pretty similar. I mean, the Pistons lost to good teams. The Chicago Bulls, who are ranked number 2 in my power rankings,
and the Cleveland Cavaliers.
And the Cleveland Cavaliers, who, while I don't have them top 10, we know that they have the talent. And like some of the losses with the Cavs, like Jared Allen hasn't played, or I think Mitchell missed one of their games. In that Cleveland game, Mitchell, Jared Allen, and Mobley all played. I'm pretty sure every single player played except Darius Garland.
Yeah.
So that like, but I'm not gonna.
That's a good.
When I'm looking at the Cavs, I'm not looking at a fully healthy Cavs. I'm looking at what the Cavs are.
No,
that specific team was almost a fully healthy Cavs.
That's a good basketball team. My only thing is, if you look at the Pistons and you look at the Rockets, those are comparable schedules and wins, and I feel like to have them so far. Now I have them far apart, but that's because I was really high on the Rockets coming into this year, and I'm not as high on the Pistons as a regular season team. But
and that also is the difference. I had the Pistons as my 5 seed, I believe, and I had the Rockets as my 4 seed. So I thought of them as about the same, and maybe you can say they should be about the same right now. But overall, Pistons have one more win. Their wins have been more impressive. Their losses are about equal. Of like both teams have only lost to good teams.
Right now this is my thing. The 76ers last week, you had them in your top 10.
It was like 8 or 9.
Again, they lose by 1 point to the Celtics and then blow out the Nets. Why are they moved out of the? You think
they blew out the Nets? I give a team 0 credit for blowing out the 0-7 team.
I mean, fair.
The Nets haven't even been in a. Have the Nets been in a close game so far?
Yes, against the Spurs.
And that's concerning in itself for the Spurs. And another reason.
And the Hawks.
And the Hawks.
Yeah.
Oh, we were.
And
was Trey playing?
And the Cavs.
I don't think Trey ended that game.
So they lost to the Cavs by 7, Spurs by 11, Hawks by 5. Those are their close games.
I personally give no credit. And then also beating the Celtics isn't this big thing. Well, they lost to the Celtics.
Yeah, by 1.
By 1. And then the Pistons did beat the Celtics. I think it was by 10. Let me see. They beat them by 6.
The Celtics are not a good team, but they're going to be a tough team. I think they're going to keep a lot of games close.
We'll see. What I've seen from them so far, I'm not too convinced. Even though before the season, I had them as around an 8 or 9.
Well, we'll get to the Celtics in a bit here. But yeah, I did want to just say a couple things. Couple teams I noticed. You had the Trailblazers, and I actually had heavily considered putting the Trailblazers top 10. They actually were in my top 10 last night. But you can't lose to the Lakers. Like, as much as I give the Lakers credit for winning that game, you just can't lose to the Lakers without Luka, Reeves, and LeBron. I mean, you lose to any team without their 3 best players. I think that is something that you should be punished for in terms of a power rankings.
That's fair. And actually, I would have had them. Surprisingly, I would have had them higher if they did win last night. But that is an unexcusable loss. I can understand why you don't have them top 10. Every other game has been tough for them.
And then here's why the Nuggets I have.
Yeah, you didn't have the Nuggets.
I didn't have the Nuggets in my top 10. And that is because when I look at these other teams, like, you're right. I actually did take some of the same philosophies you did when it came to, even if you win games, sometimes I don't take that as being this like great indicator. Because let's look at who they've beaten since our last power rankings. They beat the Pelicans, who are the worst team in the NBA right now, right?
Second. Nets are the worst.
Nets and Pelicans are they're in an ass off right now, which the Pelicans honestly is so much worse for them because the Hawks have their pick. The Trailblazers, the Nuggets lost to, right? And honestly, the Trailblazers losing last night dropped the Nuggets in my estimation because you lost to a team that then lost to the Lakers without their 3 best players. But any given night, right? And then they beat the Kings by 6. But Nikola Jokic has had as he always seems to do, a generational start to this season. I think he's had 5 triple doubles in their first 6 games or something crazy like that. I think it's 4, and then every other game he's been close. I think he had 10 and 9 in terms of rebounds, assists, one of the other games, and then obviously last night 34, 14, and 7 with 6 stocks. And that's to beat the Kings by 6, who I do not believe are a very good team. So I just look at the Nuggets and I'm like, this was a team that was supposed to have fixed some of its issues with its bench and these Jokic on-off minutes. But frankly, I haven't seen it. And I don't know that's a big problem for me with the Nuggets. And maybe I'm dropping them too low. But right now they sit at about 11, 12 for me. They're kind of in that Knicks territory where it's like, I know you're supposed to be a good team, but what I've seen from you so far has not shown me that. Now they have a stretch coming up. They'll play the Heat, Warriors, Pacers, Kings, Clippers. There's obviously a few games in there that are interesting, especially that Warriors game, which is a NBA Cup game. So how they perform over these next two games, I think, because the Heat are another team that kind of boarded the top 10 for me. I'm not super high on them, but I do actually really like the way they've played. How they play against those two teams will determine a lot of how I feel about them next week.
Where'd you have the Knicks?
I had the Knicks, so that was kind of my thing. I think the Nuggets would be 11 for me, and the Knicks would be 12.
Wow. What did the Knicks? I mean, the Knicks have only lost to good teams, right? Who have they lost to?
And again, it's just the fact of
You just got to win ball games. Is that really your
when
philosophy?
I mean, kind of okay. So they lost to the Bucks, they lost to the Bulls, they beat the Bulls, and then they beat the Wizards, right? So that's one solid win against the Bulls. Bulls did not look great in that game. And then they lost to the Bulls. It was solidly convincing loss to the Bucks. And then they lost to the Heat before that.
I mean, pretty much they've won every home game and lost every away game. Every away game has been against a tougher team. Every home game, not necessarily a tougher team because they did beat Boston. They did beat Washington.
I mean, look, they beat the Cavs opening night. And
that's a good win.
That is, I mean, you could say the Bulls is a good win, but watching the way the Bulls played, I don't know. And the Knicks are just one of those teams I look at and I'm like, they just haven't figured it out yet. And they'll get there. But Josh Hart has been absolutely abysmal to start the year. He just recently had a couple good games, so hopefully that means he's back on a solid roll. But before last night, he was shooting 30% from the field, which is atrocious. Karl Anthony Towns has not looked great either. He, again, had a bounce back game last night, looked a lot better. But grain of salt, it's against the Wizards.
Yeah.
And Jalen Brunson has looked good, obviously. They just don't inspire me in terms of their play right now. It looks a little complacent, and I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of intensity they come out with. It could be coaching, it could be adjusting to coaching, it could be all of those things. But yeah, when I look at these teams that I have above them, when I look at the Warriors, I think the Warriors are they beat the Nuggets, and I think they've been a better team overall in spite of those two bad losses. I think the Pistons, as you also think, have been a really good team as of late. I think the Cavaliers, for me, I think that's our shift a little bit. I think I'm giving the Cavaliers the benefit of the doubt because Garland has been hurt and because Donovan was hurt in one of their losses. So, I think I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Chicago, can't put those teams above Chicago. For me, Philly, we talked about this. I think Philly is still a really good team. That's why I have them at 6. I think they've looked really good.
Maybe they've looked really good, but they've played no competition. I mean, Andre Drummond and Adem Bona are their backup centers. I don't know how well that's going to play against actual good teams.
But you beat the teams that are in front of you. If you're winning against the teams that are in front of you, then I can't punish you for that. You know what I mean? Especially because the NBA is an any given night league. Anybody can beat anybody on any given night, unless your name is the Pelicans or the Nets. Then you can't beat anybody. Anybody can beat anybody any given night. And I think these teams come to play and we look at their overall records, but sometimes bad teams have a really good night and sometimes good teams have a really bad night.